Hey, I'm back. Welcome back to the broadcast of the Dope Black Sister Therapist. Now, look, for those of you who don't know, I changed the name from Dope Black Therapist. There's a whole dude, whole gentleman, whole person who identifies as male who's a Dope Black Therapist. I kept just getting tired of us bumping heads, but then I had to look at my content. My content is really about womanhood, the woman's journey. Everything has things about topics that pertain to women. And then all my guests, except my husband, were women. So I said, you know what? Let me just look at my truth and let me just be who I really am, the dope black sister therapist, because I hope I feel like a sister, an auntie, maybe an aunt, I'm just saying, oh, good friends. That's what I wanted to be, a platform where we talk. And today I want to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, which you might find I talk about a lot. It's menopause. I want to talk about, menopause because it affects three generations of women. It affects millennials, Generation X, and baby boomers. And regardless of where you're at in life, it's going to impact you eventually. So buckle up and have this conversation because this is a conversation. We talk about everything else. We'll talk about HIV, we'll talk about cancer, hypertension, domestic violence, but it's very rare that we really talk about this topic unless we're talking about being sweaty because that's my reference for menopause. I would see women in movies just hot, sweaty, and I'm like, oh my god. Or my personal life, I can remember being in the back seat in my aunt's car and looking at her talking to my other aunt and talking. And in my innocence, I remember looking up like, I wonder if she knows that she has a here right here. When nobody talks to her about that here right here. Whenever I see it, there's a here right here, right? And then I remember watching Ilana Van. I remember saying, well, a thing's gonna be a thing, and I can tell you one thing. I can't tell you what's gonna happen to your marriage, but I can tell you one day you're gonna wake up and there's gonna be three years. Damn it, if that's not the truth. Mm. Maybe what she didn't say was there'd be 3 years, and there'd be like a karate Chinese thing here. In those karate movies without the man have the long mustache. She didn't tell me when there'd be one here, and a couple of under here. So she didn't tell me that. So we all experience a change, right? And it looks different. I mean, I have only had one hot flash my whole life. That's it. And when it happened, it felt like hell. The heat of hell just rising to the top. And with it came horrible anxiety. And when you're a clinician, you know exactly what to do. You tap, you breathe, you center. If you're a brain spotter, you try to find that spot that's uncomfortable in the body, right? But what happens if no matter how much you spot yourself, no matter how much you breathe, how much you slow the breath down to grounding, what happens if the symptoms persist? And if you saw my video one, then you know what happened to me. But if you didn't, shame on you, boo. Shame on you. But if you did, then you know that when I had my one hot flash about 2 years ago, something happened with my eyes. It was so bad. The blinking was excessive. I don't even want to pretend because I don't want that thing to come back. But the blinking was so bad, combined with that like a nasal experience I was having. I was talking in my nose. I don't want to do that either because if I do it, it might be a habit that I do again and again and again. And my blinking was excessive because I had dry eyes, and I didn't realize that when I had that one hot flash and I had my one only panic attack, like heart beating, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm in my office, and this was prior to seeing a client. I was having three symptoms of menopause. And it just came from my yearling. She was like, oh, you got some little dryness here, but you look amazing for 50. I was like, oh, yeah. But yeah, I wasn't 50, but I'm just calling it 50. I'm just, I was in 50-ish range. So she's like, you look amazing. You're in great shape. Who would know what your age? I was like, girl, you know, 50 black don't crack, 50 look good, 50 fabulous, right? But what I didn't realize is that even though I'm not looking my age, my body knows my age. And that one moment changed my whole life. I mean, it was so pronounced. If anyone looks at my other videos, don't look at it. No, go look at me. Nosy. Talk about it. My symptoms were so pronounced that people thought I was having a heart attack or a stroke. Henceforth, I was in a hiatus for like almost a year. So my symptoms were so severe that eventually I had 3 eye surgeries, numerous eye drops, got medicated for anxiety, and none of the medicine would work. And they were like, why is that? We keep trying all these different anxiety medications. Now, my prescriber wasn't my OBGYN because what she said to me was, Candace, I can't do anything about the hot flash because you only had one. You're not having any other symptoms other than you're anxious. She said, well, go talk to that therapist. I said, I am a therapist. And I said, I have a therapist managing my practice because I was en route to becoming a somatic therapist. And when you're in that training, you have to have a supervisor and you have to have someone who you see who's a somatic counselor. And I said, I'm seeing someone. And so my certification requires me to see someone for at least 10 visits. I'm already in that. So it wasn't that I didn't have support. And it wasn't that I wasn't managing my body. But what happened is people kept blaming me for my own symptoms. Like, well, you're moving too fast. You're doing too much. And it was all like gaslighting. I was like, yeah, maybe I am doing too much. Maybe I am not taking care of myself. Not thinking. I thought it was. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm a liar. Who knew, right? And I remember seeing my ophthalmologist, and he kept doing procedures in my eyes. Like one week, I couldn't even see. He prescribed me one of those plaques because I ran into ditches. My eyes were so bad because the blinking was so excessive. I became light sensitive. And I remember saying to a client with this high pitched voice, and my eyes were blinking, he was like, "You got bad nerves." And I was like, "You got bad nerves?" He said, "You don't think you got bad nerves?" I was like, "No, I got dry eyes." Anxiety was off the hook. So I want to talk about that because fast forward on the right medication, hormone medication, I don't really take anxiety medication anymore. Not saying people don't take it. I'm just saying my symptoms were menopause related, which created the anxiety. My dry eyes weren't because of like sensitivity. It was because of hormonal shifts, caused me to have dry eyes and dry skin. So for a lot of people, we don't get diagnosed. We get gaslighted, we get minimized, we get talked at, and then we talk out of ourselves. I'm a whole master degree woman. I've been in the field for 30 years. But even I became marginalized and minimized because I allowed someone who felt like a friendly vagina friend, my OBGYN, that's what I call my friendly vagina friend who I paid to look into my vagina, minimize my symptoms. And when she did give me a patch, like 2 months ago, it's because I lied and said, "Oh, I'm having hot flashes." What that came from, a client of mine told me, "Oh, I feel so much better. I'm taking the patch." And I was like, "Well, hey, maybe I need to be on the patch." The patch she prescribed me did a little bit of relief. But it took a friend of mine to say, "Hey, you're doing a lot of blinking. Maybe that's menopause. Go see this place called Midi Health online." And then this woman looked at me and said, "Oh, that's menopause." And within 24 hours of taking the medication, it stopped. Now, it might not happen for you, but what does happen to a lot of us is that we feel as if we're going crazy and that whatever we're thinking is wrong. There's the whole minimization of us. So if doctors minimize us, then how does that translate to the workplace? Where I'm having symptoms, and a big symptom for a lot who go through perimenopause, which is the 10 to 14 years before the menopause. And for people, women of color, good news, bad news. Good news is that you're going to have it. Bad news is that it's going to be more severe and last longer than any other group. And no one's ever told me that. Menopause with the cessation of the menstrual cycle, right? Which is the menstrual cycle stops, go really into dysregulation. And henceforth, I was in menopause with dysregulation. I hadn't had a cycle for over 12 months. And no one told me that it wouldn't look atypical. Because only 70 to 80% people have the hot flashes. No one told me that the people who do have hot flashes, it's connected to belly fat. And no one tells you that when you have that, it creates a more experience for a lot of women in terms of body issues and just intestinal issues. No one tells us that. All we know is, "Ooh, you're just hot." And it's funny, you take your shirts off and it's funny, you ring a fan. But no one tells us that there are 76 symptoms connected to it. And no one tells us, why is it that this affects 3 generations of women? Why is it that there aren't accommodations for women and who are at the workplace or in academia? Can you imagine? A lot of us went back to school during COVID and we were excited because we were like, "I'm going to kill the curve. I'm older. My kids are going. I'm an empty nester." But no one tells that because of the issues that are happening in our brain, happening in our body, we have difficulty focusing, the brain fog, we have difficulty concentrating. Our organization's off. No one tells us that. And we don't get accommodations for it. So if we had a whole stress accommodations for it. If you are neurodivergent, accommodations for you. But what happens to women who go through these cycles? Because a ADHD brain, a neurodivergent brain, looks like a menopause brain. The only difference is that menopause brain, which causes to have difficulty concentrating, focusing. How come there isn't a clause for that? Because even when women who become pregnant, they get leave time for that. But there's no leave time for women who will say, "Wow, my symptoms, I'm bad to me, aches and pains, I can't get out of bed," or myself, "I'm just not feeling good, or I can't focus." There's no time off, no leave time. We live in a society that's so focused on making sure that people who are disabled are honored, that they pick and choose which disorder they're going to honor. A medical disorder that impacts your life for 14 years or longer. So the question is, why are there no policies for us at the workplace? There are lots of us in the workplace. more women alive than men. Why is it there are no accommodations for this population? There's accommodations for women who are in the hormonal cycle of fertility and reproduction, but what about the accommodations for the women and their partners who are experiencing this? Women who have heart issues, who are having chronic acid reflux, women who just wake up and they just can't move because they're in chronic pain. And what about the caretakers of those women when they're having an episode that's so bad that it paralyzes them? Why are there no accommodations for them? And I just want you to really think about that, because when we talk about equity and inclusion, we're talking about for everyone, but not just for some people. We're talking about for all people, especially when people who identify as female and who are having hormonal issues and whose hormonal issues impact every part of their lives. It's debilitating, and it can be very demoralizing because you don't feel like you. And it's a journey to get back to you, which is why I began talking about, specializing in menopause counseling. And because I can relate to that. And up until my own experience, all the trainings I've had, whether I'm certified in internal family systems, EMDR, use of the brain spotting, brain spotting, tapping, all of that stuff, all of it about a body issue trauma treatments and mind body treatments, like I do hypnosis. But all of that is used in my menopause counseling experience with my clients. I'm even certified as a yoga instructor and a meditator, because I realized that for me, take a breath, it took my breath away. It took my voice away. People were talking at me and not listening to me. And I want to be the kind of person who creates space for people to be listened to. Because I do know what that's like, to have 4 surgeries later on your eyes, not have a brand new car and you can't drive it. And they're making it seem or believing what people were saying, that this is all my fault. And it wasn't my fault that I was anxious. I wasn't overwhelming. I wasn't overdoing it. I wasn't doing anything. It wasn't my fault. But what happens, the world tells you there's something wrong with you, fix it. I know I keep forgetting things, fix it. And one of my superpowers is that I know I don't forget things. I've got a memory of an elephant. But can you imagine what happens when an elephant forgets? And as I said, this is a really a life transforming medical condition that 3 generations of women are going through right now. So why do we not have accommodations? Why is my pain less serious than someone else's pain? Why is my disorder not honoring, not deserving of having some leave from work? Or maybe even making accommodations of letting my office be cooler, or giving me an opportunity to take some breaks when needed. And if I'm in school, do I get extra time to do papers because I can't remember, I can't focus? Or if I'm a teacher and I'm having difficulty, do you make accommodations for that? Just want you to think about it. It's been great having this conversation. And welcome back to Dope Black Sister Therapist. Welcome, Queen. Welcome, Queen. And welcome the families and the loved ones and the friends of the Queens. Please pass this on, like it, share it, subscribe, do all that good stuff you got to do, right? But drop me a line if you're interested in looking for a counselor who is menopause sensitive, culturally aware, and trauma informed and trained. Take care. Catch me at CandiceRDickens.com. That's Candice with an I, rdickens.com. Dickens with an S. Peace out.